Hey peeps, welcome back to Rising Sun Guitar Mods. As promised, I'm going to have a look at other ways we can minimize noise with your guitar when you don't have a grounding issue. A few of you have been asking me what happens if I touch all the metal parts, the noise goes away, but I still have a noisy guitar. Well, there's a few issues here. I thought we might tackle the shielding in your pickup cavity. What will happen if you've got a noisy guitar but everything's grounded properly, depending on what sort of power supply you got. You've got a computer set up close, radio, or anything that has a power supply in it, you may get that 60 cycle hum coming through your guitar. There are some things we can do to reduce that hum. We're going to shield inside the pickup cavities on this guy and behind the pick guard. It's fairly basic. You're going to need some supplies, which we'll run through shortly.
Supplies that you're going to need. Copper tape. It's relatively cost effective. You've just got to make sure that you get the stuff with conductive glue. This stuff's pretty cheap. It's like 12 bucks for a roll of this on Amazon. I don't have an affiliate link, but go for it. You can also use the aluminium tape as long as it's got conductive glue. It'll work just as well. The only differences there are you can solder to this. A nice sharp blade, spear blades. You can go the scalpel kit. You're going to need a number 2 Phillips head screwdriver. Good idea to have a multimeter. You don't have to have an expensive one. A cheap one from the local hardware store will do the job. Mainly on this we're going to be using the continuity testing. I got an iFixit kit just because I like it. It has all the bits and pieces in it that I'm going to need. That's overkill. I have it because I do a lot of other stuff as well. The soldering iron. I've got a Weller station here. You don't need an expensive soldering iron. You can just get a more cost-effective one, but just make sure it's got a good tip on it. You don't want a huge tip that's going to melt the bejesus out of everything. Solder, some electrical cleaner, because while you're in there, you might as well give your pots a good clean. You're going to need an amplifier so you can get some noise going, and your guitar. So we'll start with the Jazzmaster. I'll show you how to do the cavity on it. Here these will go. Casualty! Every guitarist knows about these suckers. We all know the hurt, the pain, the suffering we go through to bring you music. Dang it! Just like a paper cut, only worse. So these guys here tend to come loose, and that's why the bridges sit so flush. What we need to do on those is put some thread locker in to lift the bridge up to where it needs to be, but that's part of the setup video. First things first, we're going to get this pick guard off. I might take the neck off, actually, just to make things a bit easier. You guys might be wondering, why aren't you using power tools? Well, I couldn't be bothered getting the power tools out, to tell you the truth. When you're working on your own gear, use whatever tools you want. If you're working on a friend's guitar, take that little bit of extra precaution, because if you do make a mistake, it's not yours. I just take my time. It's not like I'm doing this for a living. I don't have to spit out a certain amount of guitars per hour. You're working in a shop, it's a little bit different. You've got to get things done quickly, but when you're doing it for the love of it or doing it for a friend, just take your time and be careful with their things. I mean, this is a lovely guitar. It's got some issues, but that doesn't mean I shouldn't give it the respect it deserves. Alright guys, so here's something pretty cool. Don't be like me and open one of these up and go, oh, it's got shielding paint in it. Any normal person would go, yay, shielding paint, don't have to do anything. Just check it, because this caught me. It's not shielding paint. There's no conductivity there at all. Looks pretty, but that is just an absolute waste of time and tricked me. What I like to do, guys, is you can make this pretty economical for yourself. So I like to lay out the bottom parts first and go from there. Nice easy way to do this, guys, is just put the tape over top, run your finger or your nail around the edge, give you an idea of where you need to cut this first, these bits. Makes life a whole lot easier. Alright, we'll put this aside and we'll move on to the pick guard. For pulling off your volume knobs, there are some tools you can get. I find if you just use like a plastic pry tool and take your time, you're not going to have any troubles. One thing I learned when I was younger is do not use a metal screwdriver for this. You know, most of the time you're going to either scratch your pick guard, or a lot of the time you'll break the cap, this side piece on the knob. And when you do it, you always go, oh.
cut to the chase. Alright guys, so sorry about the aircon that was running, but it's hot as balls here, so air conditioning it is. This is where you want to be. Just be careful with your handling these pickups as well, because you don't want to break any of that. Let's put the toe knobs back on. Alright, so let's put this guy back together. Got a high gain amp. I'm going to turn off the noise gate, turn off compression, turn off the drive. So we've just got an amp. There's no colour. Turn that delay off, and we'll turn that reverb off. So we're just an amp, and that's with a lot of gain on there. I mean, it's got a ridiculous amount of gain, and cranked all the way up. I'm pretty happy with where that's at. This guy can go aside until we're ready to start putting it together and giving it a setup. Got to order some shims for this because I don't have any at the moment. Again, this is the same process as the Jazzmaster. If you don't have shielding on, it's just got this little bit here. It's always a good idea to get it all around the pocket so that it covers the entire pocket. The other thing I wanted to show you that's a good trick is just check out your pickups. These pickups here are shielded, so that's fine. There's nothing we need to do there. But if you do have pickups that have just got 2 wires coming out of them, a lot of cheaper single coils. I've got another guitar here that might just have it. Let's crack it open and see what's going on in it. Alright, so this guy here is going to get customized. This is the $40 special from my other video. We can ping those strings off, because honestly I'm not really too concerned about this guitar. It's going to be getting chopped and modded anyway. Oh, let's pull her apart. Alright, let's have a look. What surprises do we have in here? Somebody has foil taped it. Wow, okay. Someone's had a decent crack at this. They should have foiled the rest of this so that they covered the whole cavity. That's probably where they're getting some leakage. The frequencies that are coming into your cavity and affecting it have a waveform by twisting them together, and somehow it cancels the waveform. It's worth giving it a crack. Desolder these when you do yours, because you're going to want to resolder it all back on. You want to start twisting them together right from the start of the pickup. And make a decent twist of it too. Don't just do it loosely. Don't do it too tight. You don't want to break your wires out of here. You want it to be a good twist. And you're still going to need enough wire to get to your earth. Do this one on its own as well, and then bring them together. Solder them down, and then bring out your bridge, middle, neck. And this little twist, you'd be surprised how effective that is. Insulate enough of the pick guard that your entire cavity is going to be enclosed with this shield, not just part of it, because then you've got other areas for that frequency to get in. Insulate the cavity, insulate your entire pick guard. If you have dual wire pickups, twist them. The other thing that you can do that may just be an issue with some of these guitars you guys have been commenting about, just check all of your solder joints. You know, if you've got dodgy looking faded solder joints like this, it's not going to hurt to just desolder them with a bit of solder wick, resolder them nice shiny joints, and just have a good inspection around your guitar. If you've got wires that are stripped back and touching on other wires, all that sort of stuff's going to create noise. So just make sure everything's clean and in the right place. All of that sort of stuff can lead to a noisy guitar. While you've got your parts out as well, get some electrical cleaner. Plenty of products for doing this. Just make sure it's the right sort of product. Don't go using something like a degreaser or something like that. It would destroy the shit out of it. Don't do this over top of a guitar. I don't care about this guitar because it's getting stripped and everything anyway, so no biggie. See this little gap in here? Spray a bit in there and give it a wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Really work it around there. You don't need to drench it, give it a good clean, and then just work it. That does is works all of that dirt out of there. We don't know where this guitar's been. If your guitar's new and it's scratchy, then you might have spilt a beer or a Coke or whatever in there. Sometimes the connection inside the pots, if it's not there, it can create noise as well. So give that a good clean too. Same with your switches here, guys. I mean, if you open your guitar up and you got one of these cheap switches, I'd recommend replacing it with a nice one. But if you don't have the ability to do that, and this is scratching as well, these can all add up to noisy. So all you do is spray in the top and it will come down inside there. So if you spray down in the top and give that a wiggle, spray down on the other side in the top, Give that a wiggle. This cleaner is not going to hurt your paint job or any of your plastics or anything. It's pretty mild. If you want to be sure, you can also spray in the back of it here. This stuff won't harm any of these boards or any of your circuitry. It's just a cleaner. When these boards get made, guys, they get dipped in a big alcohol bath anyway. It's not like you're doing it any damage. You're probably doing it a bit of good, giving it a good clean. And that's it. You know, you probably find doing something like that, your guitar's going to quieten down a lot. If this helps, please let me know. If you're still having issues with noise, look into something like a noise gate with a very low threshold and decay can get rid of all of that 60 cycle hum. You can get some cheap noise gates online, or if you've got access to software, you can do it that way as well. If you still have issues with a noisy guitar and it's just not quietening down and it's really affecting you, maybe look into a pickup upgrade. If you've got cheaper pickups, they can be a bit noisy. A rewire, new parts, all of that sort of stuff can help. Put it back together, rock and roll. Don't forget to subscribe and like. My seat is the noisiest thing in the world. Look.